Is it possible to reverse or actually heal something as serious as diabetes? This new book that I read claims it is. So today I want to take a closer look at that. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Is that something I say? I don't know, it's been too long. Let's pretend this isn't the second time that I've recorded this video because the audio messed up the first time and I still don't understand how. Today I want to take a closer look at this book that I read. Focus. Postdiabetic, an easy to follow 9-week guide to reversing prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Written by Edmeades and Ruiz. I hope I pronounced that right. This book immediately drew my attention. Now, of course, I've known Eric for years and I know wildfit. I am a coach in wildfit. So if Eric creates something, I'm pretty sure it's going to be good. But specifically, this spoke to me because I know people with diabetes. I've known people with diabetes my entire life. And when somebody tells me that something like a disease that you just have and can't really do anything else but take medicine and hope for the best, when somebody tells me something like that is actually reversible, then you've got my attention. So to start with the title and the term that they coin, post-diabetic. We know the term diabetic and pre-diabetic, which are people whose blood sugar is elevated beyond healthy range, but not quite to the level of diabetic. And then this book coins the new term post-diabetic. So post-diabetic is a medical condition wherein the patient was once in the diabetic or pre-diabetic range, who is now displaying improved metrics ranging from the pre-diabetic to non-diabetic range, trending in that direction. Post-diabetics are people who have suffered with diabetes or pre-diabetes, but who reversed the trend in rising blood sugar and all the symptoms that come with it. Now, this is an interesting idea, but even more so if you see some of the data about how big of a problem diabetes is becoming. According to some of the data that the book cites, by 2030, over 550 million people worldwide will have diabetes. And to put that in perspective, currently, diabetes already costing over $760 billion annually, which is 10% of the global health expenditures. These numbers are projected to just skyrocket even further, and they're already at levels that could be considered pandemic. So it's crucial to understand what we can actually do to combat this. And to give a hint, certain hip weight loss drugs and insulin are not the best answer. So what actually is diabetes, specifically type 2? Type 2 diabetes is a problem of having an elevated blood sugar level. If you have this for a longer period of time, this can lead to insulin sensitivity issues and all sorts of metabolic dysfunction. So how does this work? Insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas, and its function is to basically open the doors of your cells so the glucose can go from your bloodstream into the cells and fuel them. Now, at some point, your cells will have enough glucose and the blood sugar will have to go somewhere else. Luckily, the body evolved to be pretty smart about things like this. In order to prevent us from starvation, we actually save this excess glucose in the form of fat cells. This system works very well if you indeed go through periods of voluntary or involuntary fasting, and if you're not always elevating your blood sugar. The problem when fat cells start to build up is that it becomes more and more difficult for glucose to enter your cells. Because glucose stays in the bloodstream becomes sticky, which causes hormones and other things that are transported in blood to stick to each other. And it makes it more difficult for the blood to reach into capillaries and smaller blood vessels. If this gets really bad, cells in those locations don't get any fuel anymore and they start to die off. The other problem is that your pancreas was never designed to create insulin all the time. The insulin response is supposed to be on demand when sugar comes in and then to stop. Your pancreas actually normally produces glucagon. If your blood sugar is chronically elevated, then your pancreas is always trying to create more insulin, which your body becomes resistant to, and your pancreas is not used to. This is where the book comes up with an interesting idea of viewing diabetes not as a disease, but as more of a repetitive stress injury. Instead of being something that just happens to you, diabetes is a result of letting your pancreas do the same function over and over and over without rest. Now, thinking of something like a tennis elbow, if you make the same movement over and over and over, it can cause a repetitive strain injury. The interesting thing is that if you start to think about it like this, then a logical way of healing appears. If it's a disease, that kind of leads our thinking to go to symptom management. While if it's an injury, well, what would you do with the tennis elbow? You would give it rest in order to recover. Using the same approach on diabetes, giving your pancreas a rest for a change, is what the authors argue would actually help you become post-diabetic. Now, one thing that is very intriguing throughout all of this is the explanation of how diabetes actually became such an extremely huge problem and why it's still growing. There is a very clear explanation throughout the book detailing how in the last 100 years, the food industry at various points has kind of manipulated what we eat and how we eat, which led us to a way of eating that frankly did not exist 100 years ago. It's completely different from the way that we used to eat throughout 99% of human existence. And so in that context, it's not that strange that disease would come up. Through a lot of examples, it is shown how the food industry actually achieved this and why, which often comes down to a factor of they are an industry. Companies are out there to make money. So if they can do something to make more money, that's what they will be going for. It's often not as evil as it might seem. However, the results in the end are the same. Diabetes is a result of the huge amount of sugar that we are eating nowadays. This amount of sugar wasn't available to us throughout most of our existence. And so our bodies are not capable of handling it. Now, what I like about this book is that it takes concepts that are quite complex, like the entire history of the last 100 years in the food industry, or how a disease like diabetes actually evolves, and it makes it very easy to understand. I wouldn't say dumbed down, but it is written in a way that almost pulls you through. And it makes it very clear at every step what is happening. There's lots of examples and analogies used that make it even clearer. And not a whole lot of text is actually wasted. It's actually, in a lot of cases, quite entertaining. And if you know anything about Eric Edmeades, you know he is an incredible storyteller. So there's plenty of stories in here to help give example to the points. So in summary, this book gives a very clear view of what is diabetes, type 2 specifically. Why is it such a big problem right now? How big is that problem actually? And maybe most importantly, what can you actually do about it? Which, as it turns out, is quite a lot. Now, the second half of this book contains a 9-week program that shows exactly how you can become post-diabetic, how you can get a lot of relief in your symptoms already. And even if you're not currently diabetic or pre-diabetic, it can help you massively in becoming healthier and at least not becoming pre-diabetic. I think this book is trying to do a lot, and it does it quite effectively. I'll talk more about the 9-week plan in a separate video, but the first half of this book, like I said, it explains the key points and it explains them easy enough to understand. I'm a health coach, so I read a lot about these subjects, but I think that for even the average person who isn't going deep on how the body works and how the food industry works all the time, it would even be very understandable for them. That makes this a great book for everyone. As they show with clear data, diabetes is very much underestimated. It's a huge problem worldwide, and it's only going to become way worse in the coming years. So people need to know about that. Having a book like this that not only lets you know, hey guys, there's this big problem going on, but that gives you hope, that tells you, okay, there's this big problem and you might be suffering from it, or someone you know might be suffering from it, but here's the solution. It might not be easy. It might not be as easy as taking medicine, but it actually addresses the root cause. I think that's invaluable, and I think everyone at this point could benefit from it. So with that said, stay tuned for my next video where I will go a bit deeper on how they actually explain you can get post-diabetic, how the 9-week program works, stuff like that. Let me know in the comments if you found this interesting, if you have any questions around any of this, if you want to know more, stuff like that. Leave a like if you like it and subscribe because it really helps me and my channel. and I will see you in the next video. Bye. The audio better be right now. I'm not going to create this video a third time.